Welcome to Lisbon with its variety and rich culture. We are delighted to show you an overview of Lisbon's places to be and to see. Praça do Comércio, known by the locals as Terreiro do Paço, is a huge open space and was site of the royal palace for 400 years. The huge square open to the river still feels like the entrance to the city. At the center of the square is the statue of King José I, erected in 1755 by Machado de Castro, the leading Portuguese sculptor of the 18th century. At the northwest corner of the square, you'll find one of Lisbon's tourism information agencies. At the northeast corner stands Lisbon's oldest café, the Martinho da Arcada, formerly a haunt of the city's literary. The impressive triumphal arch on the north side of the square leads into Rua Augusta, where you will find a large variety of restaurants, banks and shops leading you to the heart of the Baixa, the lower part of the city. The other main thoroughfares to the Baixa are the Rua dos Sapateiros, Rua da Prata and Rua do Ouro. Many of these streets retain their name referring to a collection of shops with a similarity of handicrafts like the Shoemaker's Street and the Goldsmith Street. At the center of Baixa, the Rocio is a popular meeting point with cafes, theaters and restaurants. This large square has been the nerve center of Lisbon for 6 centuries. At the center stage stands a statue of Dom Pedro IV, the first emperor of independent Brazil. Right next to Rocio is the square Praça da Figueira. In the early years, the square took on the role of the city's central marketplace. Perhaps its most eye-catching feature is the multitude of pigeons that perch on the statue of King João I. Also present at the square is the Hospital das Bonecas, the Dolls' Hospital, a nice place to visit, the place to be if you want to fix your doll. Surgery at this doll's hospital takes place in a workshop upstairs. Lisbon is located on 7 steep hills. It is quite a challenge to your physical shape to explore the city by foot. One of the more eccentric features of the Baixa is the elevator named Elevador de Santa Justa, which will take you from the lower part of Baixa up to the upper side of town, the Chiado and the Bairro Alto. This neo-Gothic lift was built by the French architect Raoul Mesnier du Ponsard, an apprentice of Alexandre Gustave Eiffel. At one of the 7 hilltops lays one of the most picturesque districts made in the late 16th century, the Bairro Alto. The Bairro Alto is a fascinating area of cobbled streets, peeling houses and tiny grocery shops, selling fruit and flasks of local wine. Traditionally a bohemian quarter, notorious for prostitution and gambling, today the Bairro Alto is a residential area with the spirit of a close community. In recent years, the Bairro Alto has become fashionable at night for its numerous bars, clubs and small restaurants. Don't forget to visit the famous Casa dos Fados, the Portuguese blues. Fado is an expression of longing and sorrow. The music owes much to the concept known as saudade, meaning a nostalgic longing for good times past. In contrast to the Bairro Alto, we find nearby the Chiado area, where the elegant clothes shops, bookshops and the old-style cafes abound. Chiado is also traditionally known for its intellectual associations. The various statues of literary figures can be found here. Fernando Pessoa, Portugal's most famous 20th century poet, is seated at a table outside the Café Brasileira. Established in the 1920s, this café was another favorite rendezvous of intellectuals. Mentioning Fernando Pessoa, there is a museum in the house where he spent the last 15 years of his life. This museum is dedicated to poetry in general and Pessoa in particular. It contains a library specializing in his work as well as some personal belongings. Lisbon offers a large, modern, well-equipped net of public transportation. However, at the slightest excuse, you should ride one of the city's antique trams. Ascending some of the steepest gradients of any city in the world, Lisbon's 5 tram routes are worth taking for the sheer pleasure of the ride alone. The most interesting routes are trams 12 and 28. Another nice way to view the capital is to take one of the many ferries that crisscross the Tagus between Lisbon and the South Bank suburbs. One of the finest historical places of Lisbon is Alfama. It is the oldest neighborhood with a charming labyrinth of narrow streets, blind alleys and twisting staircases. At the high tops of Alfama, you will find some viewing points offering great panoramic views.
Mas por ter assim nascido, sou de vidro escurecido. Mas por ter assim nascido, não me atinjam, não me toquem, meus amigos, sou de vidro.
On Tuesdays and Saturdays, you can go to a typical flea market near the Igreja de São Vicente. Pitches are mostly laid out on the ground here, with some more permanent shops along the perimeter of the square. Above the Alfama, you will find the imposing Castelo de São Jorge, a defensive stronghold and royal palace until the 16th century. Nowadays it serves as a popular promenade with a beautiful park and spectacular views from its greatly restored ramparts. Expo 98 gave Lisbon a boost of futuristic high-tech architecture, which was a great international success. The exhibition's international area has been developed as the city's new exhibition center. The Ocean Pavilion will remain as Europe's largest oceanarium.